if I was the champion in every single region, these would be my teams. To start things off, let's just say I will be using Pokemon who have gotten evolutions in newer generations. So like here in Kanto, I'm using Steelix, Annihilape and Crobat, even though they were introduced in Gen 9 and Gen 2. But let's break down why I've chosen these teams. Annihilape is a really strong Pokemon now in Paldea. A lot of people have used them in their playthroughs, I think, and it'll be really cool to see it. The Kanto champion, which would be me, just throwing out this ghost monkey at you. Then I chose Alakazam because Psychic type at the beginning was, I think, the most overpowered type because it was so hard to get Dragon types that I don't think anyone really used Dratini or Dragonair and Dragonite. Then we have Aerodactyl because fossil Pokemon were introduced and a fossil would be nice on a champion team. Steelix because Steel is a good all-rounding type, and Onix is a beloved Gen 1 Pokemon, especially with the first gym leader using Onix. So if at the beginning you fight an Onix and then at the end you're fighting its evolved form, it kind of just reflects back to then. Then we have Crobat, same thing as before, it reflects back on you fighting Golbat and a ton of Zubat, and then you fight its evolved form. Then Mega Charizard X. If I'm doing this like, oh, this Pokemon is over here, so version exclusive teams, what I'm saying. Mega Charizard X would be in, say, for example, Pokemon Sword, but Mega Charizard Y would be in Pokemon Shield. So I'm just using Mega Charizard X as the example here. Next we have Johto. First we have the Dunsparce, normal type, used by Larry, so that gives it a bonus point to be here. Then we have Ampharos, one of the few Johto Pokemon who got a Mega Evolution, and it's an early game Pokemon that's quite strong. Then we have Farigiraf, normal Psychic type, which means it's not weak to Ghost, and it's strong against fighting as well. So it's a very good typing and pretty strong and sturdy. Then we have Umbreon because Umbreon is one of my favourite Pokemon. Scizor because Steel typing, also you'll catch a Cypher and almost never get a Scizor if you don't have friends or cannot trade. And then Mega Tyranitar because I kind of want to put the Megas in for as many generations as I can, and Tyranitar is the pseudo legendary. Now in Hoenn, there is a lot of strong Pokemon, so I just kind of picked all the strongest. So we have Absol, one of my favorites, and is pretty strong. Then we have Flygon, another one of my favorites. Metagross, another one of my favorites, and it's a Steel and Psychic type. One of the most bulky types you could ask for, in my opinion. Aggron, Steel and Rock. If you knock out the Metagross, it's going to be like, yes, I've used Fire type moves against this Metagross. Uh-oh. Now my Fire type's going to get knocked out by the Aggron's Rock type moves. Then Salamence. And I'm just realizing I have spelt its name wrong. I haven't put the second A in. Salamence because pseudo legendary. Same with Metagross as well. Then Mega Sceptile. The final Pokemon depends on whatever starter you didn't pick. So you pick one and then your rival gets the other one that's stronger. And then the champion, me, I'll get whatever starter you didn't get from the professor. In this case, I'm using Sceptile. Now, Sinnoh. So we have Garchomp because it's the pseudo legend. Lucario because Lucario is one of the most well-known Pokemon and strongest in Sinnoh. Then we have Gliscor, evolution of Gligar, one of my favorites, and I used a shiny Gliscor in my Pokemon Legends Arceus team, which was really fun to do the final battles with. Then Spiritomb, which goes back with Cynthia. Garchomp is for the pseudo-legendary reason, so not for the Cynthia reason. Bastiodon or Rampardos, depending on what version of the game you have. And then Mega Gallade. I chose Mega Gallade over having a Mega Garchomp or a Mega Lucario because you kinda expect there to be a Garchomp or a Lucario. You wouldn't expect there to be a Gallade coming out of nowhere, and when Gallade Mega evolves, it is very strong. Next we have Unova. In Unova I'd use Electros, I'd use Zoroark, Braviary, Kingambit, Haxorus, and Shiny Hydreigon. Electros because it's a fairly strong electric type. I think there's a limited number of electric types in Unova, and this is the strongest one. Zoroark because Zoroark can transform into the final Pokemon on my team, Shiny Hydreigon. So you'd be like, oh my god, they have a shiny. And then when you knock it out with a dragon, you'd go for a dragon move, knock it out, and then you'd be like, oh no. And you might have wasted all your dragon moves. Braviary because it's one of the regional birds, I think. Not sure whether in black and white too, whether it's version exclusive. If so, then you can replace it with Mandibuzz depending on the version. Kingambit because Gen 9 had introduced Kingambit and it was very strong. Used it on my Champion Elite 4 team. It wiped out Gita's Glamora at the end. All my Pokemon had fainted and I didn't heal them up, I forgot to. And I think I just had my Garchomp, my Meowscarada, who were the strongest, and then my Kingambit, who was the lowest level. But then with one Koto Cleave and a Iron Head, we knocked out the Glamora. Next, Haxorus. I'm not sure whether Haxorus is a pseudo-legend, but I'm guessing it is. But it's really strong, and I think Drayden uses one. So, again, with the gym leader contrast with the champion. Then Shiny Hydreigon. I chose it to be shiny because on Pokemon Go I have a shiny Zweilous, who's very close to becoming Shiny Hydreigon. Hydreigon is definitely a pseudo legend. Next we have Carlos. Carlos was probably the hardest team to decide because they didn't introduce a lot of Pokemon. The only Carlosian Pokemon who got a special form was Greninja, and technically I can't use an Ash Greninja, and I wouldn't be able to use a Hisuian Goodra. So I just went for the strongest and probably coolest looking Pokemon I could find. So Aegislash because Blade form and then Shield form, really tricky to defeat, especially if you're playing in Sword and Shield. So it took me 3 tries to defeat Leon because I was underleveled, and I just used a very limited amount of Pokemon. I wasn't focused about getting the Pokedex done. I was focused on getting to the champion before the new year because I got it for Christmas. And I ended up having to deal with the Aegislash, which knocked out most of my team. Then Tyrantrum with the whole fossils and stuff. Also, Tyrantrum just looks a lot cooler than Aurorus. Aurorus is a cool Pokemon, but design-wise, it doesn't beat Tyrantrum. The Greninja thing, it's again with the starter thing. Whatever starter that you didn't pick or your rival didn't pick, I would get it. And then Noivern. Noivern is sort of a pseudo legend. I think its base stat total isn't as close to 600, but still very strong Pokemon. Malamar, because not many people know how to get Malamar, and then when you see it, you're going to want to try and evolve your Inkay. Goodraby's pseudo legend. Also, for those who don't know how to evolve Inkay into Malamar, you need to put your device upside down. Oh, it also has to be over level 30. In Alola, not Aloha. Aloha means hello. Alola is the region. But in Alola, not many strong Pokemon. Actually, I don't know why I didn't pick Kommo-o, but this was probably a better team than if I used Kommo-o because the amount of fairy types you can get, it's just going to be very easy to defeat. But this is where I introduce my own gimmick and my own item. But let's get the other Pokemon done first. Toxapex, because Baneful Bunker, you're going to get poisoned. I'll probably have like a focus band on it, and when you think you finally got the Pokemon to defeat it with, I'll just Baneful Bunker it, and then you'll get poisoned. Salazzle, because the whole female Salandit turning into Salazzle thing annoys a lot of people, so they end up not catching it. But it's actually a fairly strong Pokemon, especially with it being fire and poison. If I give it good enough defense IVs, it'll be amazing. Palossand, because Ghost and Ground is very solid and it has pretty good defense. Tsarina, because that Trop Kit really hits hard. And I think a lot of people do use ground types and rock types in Alola, especially with them introducing the Alolan Geodude and stuff. So just spamming Trop Kick as champion would be funny. Mudsdale, Stomping Tantrum, and High Horsepower. Very good moves. And with the special attack and attack heightened, Mudsdale will be really tough to defeat. Especially if I have stamina. And here's where I introduce the gimmick and the new item. So the new item is called Disc Replacer, and it can only be used on a Silvally. Instead of putting the memories into Silvally, you can just have a disc replacer put it in for you at random moments in a battle. So say you use a ghost type move, it's going to turn into a ghost type Silvally, like with Protean, which is a really good strategy. That would actually be a really nice item to have, and your Silvally just turning into its different forms in a battle. It's really cool. Here we have Galar. This might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to use Corviknight, Grimmsnarl, Toxtricity, Dragapult, Duraludon, and Eternamax Eternatus. Corviknight, because Corviknight is a strong steel and flying type superior to Skarmory. Grimmsnarl is one of my personal favorites, and Dark Fairy is a really good combination, and its defense is pretty good. And I'd use Toxtricity. So far, in any game I can get Toxtricity, which is just Sword and Shield and Pokemon Violet, it's been on my team and has been over level 70. So I remember I wanted to get Toxtricity so bad. I got the games a year later, and when I saw Toxtricity, while I was watching footage and trying to decide what version to get, ended up getting both. Toxtricity really appealed to me. I got to level 72 in both Sword and Shield. It absolutely demolished everything. So if I have it that higher level in Sword and Shield as champion, imagine how much damage I can do. Also, I had it on my champion team for Paldea. Dragapult is a strong Pokemon, also Yeet the Children. When Leon uses it, it has a good variety of moves. It can learn electric type moves, fire type moves, water moves that are really powerful, like Hydro Pump, Fire Blast, and Thunderbolt. And it can use a fair amount of strong dragon type moves, like Dragon Dart, Draco Meteor, and Dragon Rush. Duraludon, because it has one of the most bulkiest typings in the Galar games. It's literally Steel and Dragon. It has its own G-Max form, which makes it even more bulkier. It's just perfect. If I pair it up with a Focus Sash and Steel Beam, or maybe a Citrus Berry, so I can use Steel Beam 3 times, really strong. Then Eternamax Eternatus. I know technically you can't use Eternamax Eternatus, because that just breaks the game. So if you've seen like the randomizer, I think it was in the John Michael Cup of JTV and PM7's like Champion Cup thing, John encountered Eternatus, or at least he tried to. So that just breaks the game. So instead of you catching Eternatus, at the end I'd bring out Eternatus, and then the Darkest Day commences. So instead of Chairman Rose being evil, I'd be evil, which is a nice twist. And now Paldea, the most recent games. I used Goldengo just to taunt you, because you need 999 gimme gold coins. Then Tinkaton, because it has Hammer, and Hammer funny. Armarouge and Ceruledge, because they're two of the most amazing duo Pokemon I've ever seen. So sad that they're version exclusive, but if I can ever get my hands on someone who has Scarlet, or if I can get a Scarlet copy, when the Spring Home 2023 update happens, I'm immediately transferring over an Armarouge to Pokemon Violet, because that will look beautiful on my team. Palafin, because I'm just going to be flip turning out of there and then jet punching you. Then Baxcalibur, because it's Godzilla. And here is a bonus. Hisui. You may be wondering why there are so many different Pokemon on here, 11 to be exact. Well, I'll explain the first 6 and then the team of 5 at the end. So the first 6, it's just a normal battle, so I know Hisui technically doesn't have a champion, unless you're counting that final battle against, I don't remember who it was, but like trying to be God. I'll find it out later. So it'll be like happy though instead. So I'm using Typhlosion, Decidueye, Samurott, Weirdeer, Cleavor, and Ursaluna because they're all past Pokemon. Then once you beat me, I'm really happy, I'm proud for you, because you're really strong now and you only have to catch Arceus to finish the Pokedex and beat the game. But that's before you know Giratina exists. You don't know Giratina exists at this point. I get controlled by Giratina, and then Giratina makes me have 5 more Pokemon that are all like, you know, in Pokemon Go how they have shadow Pokemon. It'll be sort of like that. So you'd have like a Shadow Basculegion, you'd have Shadow Sneasler, Shadow Overquill, Shadow Shiny Zoroark. That'll be a Pokemon that's going to be super cool, and I wish was real. I don't know whether Hisui and Zoroark is in Pokemon Go yet, but if it ever does get added, which it probably most likely will, because I think they're going to try and make it a complete collection of every single Pokemon. I mean, they've already added in 3 Hisuian Pokemon. But if they ever do that, I want to fight a Team Go Rocket leader with Shiny Zoroark and just be like, oh my god, you're a shiny Shadow Zoroark. I'd never purify it. Also, Giratina would have made a Shadow Arceus. And then at the end, you would be fighting a... I don't know how I'd call it this, but it's like a twist where at the end, Coridon, Miraidon come through the time travel machine with Sada and Toro riding on it, which would be really cool. And by them doing that, it lets Dynamax energy come from Galar and lets Giratina Dynamax, like it does in Dynamax Adventures. Terrestrial energy flowed through from Paldea and it terrestrialized into this mega type, like a totally different type that's gone extinct now. There's no Pokemon who has it anymore. And then like it could mega evolve like Carlos Mega Energy from a different timeline, because technically it's time travel. Comes flowing through Mega Giratina, and then it has like its own exclusive Z crystal, and it's like the evil AI Sada and Toro all over again. That would be like a really cool ending for Legends Arceus. But that never happened. We ended up just killing a guy and crushing his dreams and then becoming God.